This EOI is about creating a PebblePad platform to show that you have understood what's required of you in the experiment, perform the experiment in a way that we would do as a physicist, keeping a notebook, and then presenting that data in a way that is useful for other people. So the engineering cohort has approximately, or can have up to 500 students on both campuses. The physics cohort is much smaller, so there are probably about 80 students in total. So in my mind, employability is the key here. Providing an authentic experience. Students are going to be engaged if they realise that it's going to get them a career. This EOI is about providing a defined scaffold for how to do this correctly. So how a physicist does an experiment. A client has given you something to do, a task to do. This is the task that they want. How would you go about designing an experiment to do that, documenting it properly as you go through, and then presenting in the end your findings? That's what we do as scientists and engineers. I mean, one of the key employability factors is the ability for an employer to give someone a task and then them to go out and solve the task. When you think about it, and if an employer is employing you, they're employing you to do that. They're not employing you so they can tell you step by step by step. And in fact, in the future, when AI does take a lot of these lower level jobs, if you can, I say to my students, if you can think of a step-by-step cookbook process, then a machine's going to be able to do that. And so you have to start thinking at a higher level. And I think this is really encouraging from day one to be a problem solver, not a recipe follower. The two problems that I'm trying to address here are the connectivity from year to year of the laboratory courses, but also a mind shift in the students in how we assess them and how they define themselves in their course, rather than saying they're a passive person sitting back doing as they're told, step by step, to being an active learner where we're pushing them, but they're learning themselves. They will keep a lab notebook. So that lab notebook is something that is very important to a scientist. If you're doing a long project, maybe 4 or 5 years, you have to be able to refer back. So they will keep a lab notebook, and we're instructing them on how to fill one of those out, and then how to present the data. So the first task will be, they'll be doing that. They'll be doing some pre-lab work, watching some videos, undertaking the task, the experiment, and then presenting their lab book to us to show that they've got everything they need to do a presentation. In the second task, they will do pretty much the same thing. There'll be pre-lab work, and some videos and things to watch, and some questions to answer. Then they will decide, they will design their experiment, undertake the experiment, and then again show their notebook. All this will be on PebblePad, so we can, at every step of the way, we can look at this. So subsequently is to do either a video presentation of it, so as we would in a conference, or a poster presentation. So, or a 2-page summary of what their experiment was. So we have been using a blog or feedback tool only at this point. We're still developing the tools for this task. Workbook is going to be the workbook that the students use. So being able to present a workbook is going to be very useful for them to do this, where they can upload, say, graphs. The blog tool is, I think, probably the least useful tool, but I think that the ability to upload a workbook of their work that we can then provide feedback with our feedback tools has been pretty useful. And that's what going forward, that's what we're going to be using quite a lot. I think the technology is fine. It's just getting the students to use it in the way that we want them to use it that's the challenge, and that's again about proper communication. To provide a list of the things that we would be expecting from the students, rather than saying, please be reflective write a reflective paragraph. A lot of students, especially if we're talking about engineering students and science students, they're not so used to writing in that sort of informal way. So we provided in the second iteration of the blog tool task, we asked them to we gave them some examples of things that are reflective. This is the thinking that we're putting into this task now for this going forward. We're providing examples rather than saying, do this, and then expecting them to know it. So again, we've got to remember we're teaching, they're learning, so those two things have to work together. So yeah, providing examples of what is reflective thinking, it's been very useful.